My guest today is Stacy Heisey-Terrell, a former human resources leader who has spent over 20 years inside the corporate world before deciding to take the partnership over or take the ownership of her own time and future. She now helps others do the same, moving from an employee to an employer. I would maybe call that from a egghead to a cowboy. We'll explore that. From stuck to self-directed, and from survival to purpose. Now, Stacy's Nebraska roots are deep. Would you say they're deep? I think they're deep. We'll call them
Yes,
deep.
they are deep.
So, as I understand it, your mother grew up out west in western Nebraska, and you spent countless summers with family in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, which is very western
Yep.
Nebraska. It's almost the Wyoming border. It's even farther west from where I grew up in Valentine, Nebraska. But it's a beautiful place. You're kind of surrounded by the beauty and grit of the Scottsbluff Monument. And today you're based in the Philadelphia area, where you and your husband are raising 4 teenage daughters. Through her work as a coach and speaker, Stacy challenges people to ask the important question: Are you giving away your future, or do you own your work? Which all this stuff is fascinating, but I gotta be honest with you, Stacy. The second that you told me that you were had Scottsbluff connections, you had me at hello. So I think it's really interesting because I have some parallels myself. I when my wife and I got married, we moved. I got a job offer right away, and we moved to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And so when people don't realize that Pennsylvania actually, I know you're in Philly, the big city, but Pennsylvania is actually a lot like Nebraska in the sense that it's very rural. People don't realize how rural of a state that is. And it's very idyllic, and there's some beautiful, you don't have to go very far even from Philly to, Lancaster County, in Lancaster and Nebraska, it's Lancaster, but Lancaster County, and see some incredible countryside. So I'm just curious, tell me about your summers in Nebraska. What did you do, and what kind of impact did that have on you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad to be here, Sam. My mom grew up in Hay Springs, and both she and my dad went to Chadron State. So I've got aunts, uncles, cousins, aunties, all kinds of people out on that western side. And my grandparents lived, when I was growing up, they lived in Gearing, my aunt and uncle in Scottsbluff there. And we would come, I grew up in Central California, and we would come out and just enjoy kind of being in a different world, right? Like there's so many things to do and see, and got to drive tractors and pick corn and drive the truck without falling in the ditch and all
So
that
you're
good
legit.
stuff.
I'm happy to talk to you. You speak my language.
I learned to do the irrigation tubes. I was never very good at that. I'd rather drive the motorcycle
irrigation
with
ditch
the shovel.
tubes. I'm impressed.
Yes.
So Central California is also near and dear to my heart. Where in Central California were you raised?
Yeah, I grew up in Bakersfield. My dad's family is all Bakersfield, California.
It's very
hour
rural.
And a half north of LA, right in Central.
Yeah, it's rural.
It's rural and kind of in a different way, right? Like lots of almond orchards and pistachios, and when I was growing up, lots and lots and lots of cotton, and alfalfa. So kind of fun to see soybeans and corn when we.
Yeah, but Bakersfield is no LA. It's no San Francisco. I mean, it's a different. It's a
no.
It's an agricultural based economy there. I mean, It's a great
The
region.
carrot capital of the world, Kern
Yeah,
County. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So how did those summers in Western Nebraska influence your sense of work, independence, or identity? How does that influence you today?
Yeah, I think, I grew up with lots of entrepreneurs in my family, kind of in my DNA. I think that quite a few of my forefathers were farmers, and that optimism that comes with farming or owning your own business, the heart, being able to do what it takes. But I think also kind of having that look of, I can control my future, that vision of I'm in charge of my destiny a
Hmm.
bit, and that's a really good positive thing, was in there. And it took a few decades in corporate for me to go, okay, enough of this. Like, how do I shake that off and come back to my roots,
Yeah, so
right?
you spent almost 2 decades in HR, human resources for our cowboys out there. They may not know what that means,
Mhm.
but which you know, what drew you to that world originally, and when did you start feeling the pull to do something different after HR?
Yeah, well, I think like a lot of people, we kind of fall into our careers
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
I was working at a large law firm, and the head of HR had an opening, and he's like, I think you'd be good at this. And I was like 23, so I'm like, sure, why not? So I was good at it, right? I loved people. I liked helping people. Um, I throughout my career, I was always coaching leaders, coaching employees, but from the company's point of view, right? So there were lots of things that I had to do that I was good at, but I didn't really like doing, like laying people off or downsizing, moving teams around. That was really upsetting for people. And I just kind of got to a point where I'm like, there's got to be another way. Can I work with the same people, but on the other side, on the employee side? How do you
Right.
take charge after you've been downsized, or had a really bad experience in your work life? How do you take charge of your career, kind of dust yourself off,
How do you
maybe
become a
look
cowboy?
at how do you become a cowboy?
Become
Right?
fierce
For a
and
lot of us, we
fierce
got to
and
find a horse first. Yeah.
yeah. Well, fear.
And
You
then
have to
learn
be
how to climb on.
exactly, exactly. Well, there are characteristics there. You have to be fierce, determined,
Yeah,
bold, independent, can-do attitude. All those things there. So, I
for
mean, it's
sure.
I talk to people all the time about because I was in my career, I was both things. I was an employee first, and then I was an employer, and it's two different things. And I think it's important to have perspective of both, particularly if you're going to be an employer. You need to have a perspective of an employee. But
Hmm.
but it's kind of two different mindsets, if you will, in my opinion. And so I think it's great.
Hmm.
I love that you help people transition. Um, into the kind of the next step if that's
Yeah.
the direction they want to go. Um, you talk about giving away your future. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So I I probably other people can identify with this, but I think when you're a hard worker, you find places to work hard, right? And I would work nights and weekends and put a lot of my heart into my job. And um sometimes that was appreciated. Sometimes I saw the impact that I was making around me, but a lot of times it kind of I didn't come back to me, right? Like I'd put it in and somebody else would benefit. My boss would take credit, or the company would do well, and it didn't come back to me. And that's exhausting after a while,
I,
right?
I,
Like
I,
I want to work and make it count for me.
right. Well, I've heard it say like, why am I working for my boss's vacation? I should be working for my
Yes.
vacation.
Right? He's earning bigger and bigger bonuses. Yeah, what am I doing? I'm
Right.
missing games, I'm missing events with my family, like yeah. And then when it comes down to it, you think like, okay, I'd trade some of that for stability, but then often we don't we don't get stability in return. We're still kind of treated when there's a downturn, we're out, right? So it's that's a bitter pill to swallow after you've put so much of yourself into your work. Yeah.
Absolutely. How did your HR background, do you think, shape your approach to entrepreneurship that may be different than most?
Yeah, well, I started my business. I've got colleagues who also coach, and they have a marketing background or a sales background. They're doing these lovely things with numbers and charts, and I don't like any of that stuff. I like the people stuff.
Yeah,
So I think there's some freedom too in how I run my business is really different than maybe somebody else with a different background. Um, where I do have to be disciplined to put on my calendar, like check the bank account, right? And do the reports and those sorts of things. But I love working with people, and I get to spend most of my day doing just that. Helping people, talking, meeting all kinds of new people, being inspired by their stories or seeing how they are transforming. And um, that's what as I went through this process for myself, kind of lined up what are my goals, what is most important to me, and how do I want to spend most of my day, and how do I find a career that supports that aligns with that. And this came together perfectly for me.
um, you say you obviously a people person, and salespeople are people persons. But I'm wondering if
Yeah.
it sounds like to me though, what you like enjoy from the aspect is you like, uh, or maybe I'm assuming something, but instead of selling a product, you're probably better at you probably get enjoyment or satisfaction out of maybe helping people network or helping make connections. Is it rewarding? It was rewarding to me to be able to make connections for people or to
Yeah.
set them up with people that I knew might be a good fit, that they would work together as well as colleagues. Is there an element of that in your work?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And like when you're talking to somebody and you see that light bulb come on of like, oh, I know who I could talk to, or oh, what if I tried this? Or I had just had this great conversation. I want to tell you about it. What can we find? Uh, what can we take from that? What does that tell you about your direction? I live for those moments, right? Where people are like, oh, I never thought of that way, or I didn't know that this would be possible for me. Um, and that's
It's
coal in my
rewarding.
engine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's
Yeah,
particularly as time goes
very
on and you
much so.
see what may be something that you helped set up blossom into something that's even bigger than even you
Yeah,
thought possible. It's really rewarding,
yeah,
at least my
yeah,
experience, for sure. For sure. Um,
absolutely, absolutely.
uh, what are the most common fears or limiting beliefs you see in people who want to change careers?
Yeah, it's scary, right? I think we do what we know and do what we've seen other people be successful at. Right? So even though we might feel we're on the grind or we're working harder and harder, but we're just on a hamster wheel, we're not going anywhere. it's really hard to imagine a different future, a different outcome for ourselves. So I think, fear of change is huge for a lot of my clients. And sometimes I tell the story about, when you were a little kid, you knew that there was a monster under your bed, right? Like you knew it to be fact. And when you
Yeah.
got brave enough to look under there with a flashlight, that was like, oh, whoops, there's no monster, right? The dust bunnies under the bed. So I think a lot of times we get convinced that something is one way until we take some moment, take some time to do some fact finding, to get out the flashlight and really assess what the environment is. And often those facts combat that fear. And we're like, oh, wait a minute. Other people are doing this. I just didn't know them. There is a path forward. I couldn't see it before. I didn't have that experience. So I like to help find the batteries for the flashlight so we can go look around, do
Go look
some
under the bed.
discovery, and fight some of those fears. Yeah. Yes. Look under the bed.
Look under the bed. Do you find that? I think you're probably my age. I mean, I'm in my mid to late 50s. I retired early at 53. But do you find that folks that are maybe our age have a bigger time dealing with that fear than somebody who's 20? I mean, I know people that are in their, people that I help mentor or whatever, and they're now in their, say mid to late 30s. They've had multiple jobs, and they don't seem like, when I was coming
Yeah.
up, you kind of didn't want to do that. You kind of wanted to show that, hey, I'm reliable. I can hang around for a couple of years. But that's it. Am I wrong? Is the
Mhm.
marketplace now not that way anymore, or what? You just don't see people at the same place for 30 years, and maybe you do because they're trying to get out now.
No,
But what are your thoughts on that?
because now they're trying to escape. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I think you're right on. Like, I think these younger generations don't, it, they have more imagination for themselves. Maybe it's a generation, maybe it's the age. But and it's harder for us, right? And I think when you think about like, well, I've had years and years or decades and decades of building expertise, building a name for myself, it's really kind of scary to think about, well, could I let that go? What if I'm not a director anymore, or VP, or the manager? What if I let go of that title? Who am I? Can I take those skills and plug them in to a different system, a different way to do things? And for a lot of my clients, I see that the way that they've defined success, they haven't done that for themselves. They've taken on, well, my society tells me that this is success, or my parents told me, or my spouse, my boss, whatever. And when we take a moment to think about, well, actually, what are your goals and what is success for you? Sometimes is radically different than the track we've been on, right? Where maybe I don't need the house and the car and the job title. Maybe what I really, really can live for is making an impact or leaving a legacy, or, you know, spending my day doing mostly what I enjoy, the tasks that I enjoy, instead of uh, what I've been doing. It's really freeing to imagine a different future for yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Sorry, listeners, my glasses weren't on. Now they're on. um, how do you help people identify what they really want, not just what they think they should do next? I mean, how do you do that? How do you make those
Yeah.
connections? How do you
Yeah.
help them with that process?
Yeah. I think for a lot of folks, we don't take a lot of time for ourselves to strategize or make our own long-term plans. A lot of that energy goes towards helping our families or our
Mm,
teams or our organizations. And so really what we do is slow down a minute and think about what are those big goals on the horizon? What are the income, lifestyle, wealth, equity goals that you're working towards? And sometimes just that process of let's write down what the goals are, the light bulb, you see the light bulbs start coming on, right? Like, oh
yeah.
my gosh, I am not working. I'm not in alignment with those goals. My career is very misaligned when I really say where I'm headed, or how I see my future. Where I work
Y-
with my spouse, my family, like where are we going? Does my job support that? Does my career support that? And through that process, often we see like, ooh, wow, we're way out of whack. How do we bring it into alignment?
you
Sometimes
mentioned,
that's just another corporate job, right? And sometimes it's business ownership or going out on your own.
yeah, it's interesting because I mean, we're grown adults, but like if you actually ask a grown adult to write down their goals, it's hard. It's hard. I go to an example of myself.
We don't we're
Uh,
not, we don't practice that. Yeah.
no, we don't, and it's a simple ask, right? But it's like what, and I can relate to that just from I have a coach of my I'm into CrossFit, but I had a coach that was coaching me on some things, and she's 32 or 33
Mhm.
years old, and she asked me to write down my principles. And you're like, well, these millennials, what are they talking about? But I tell you what, I challenge you to do it. I challenge everybody. I mean, because at the end of the day, what is it that you are
Yeah.
all about? What do you want to be remembered by, or
Mhm.
how do you want to be perceived, or what are your principles?
Mhm.
And it's like that was quite an exercise. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and research shows if you write those things
Write it
down,
down.
you're
Hmm.
3 times more likely to achieve them than if you don't write them down. If you just think them in your head, or even have a conversation, D- right? You just have to commit it to paper.
It's so simple,
So,
it's
a
ridiculous, right?
lot
But
of
it's
what
not
I
simple.
provide is just a little accountability. Yeah. Yes. It's that simple, right? Yeah.
Crazy, crazy. Um, can you share a success story of someone that you helped that made that shift and how their life changed?
Yeah. Yes. So, I was working with someone that I had worked with in insurance. She was a claims vice president, professional person, had worked in the insurance industry her entire career. And we started working together. And it was the more we peeled back the layers, the onion, the more she was like, this just is not a fit, right? I'm just so not happy. And we started exploring businesses. She thought she wanted to work for herself. So we started exploring businesses. What kind of business model made sense? What kind of people did she want to spend time with? What kind of tasks did she want to do day to day? And she ended up opening a business, which the, like there are so many ways to make money in this world, right? And to support yourself. She opened a business that patches holes in walls. So her business follows plumbers and electricians, follows
Ah,
behind them and fixes all the things that they punch holes into.
huh.
And she loves it. So here's this, you know, Philadelphia insurance executive. And now she's got blue collar guys working for her. She's got drives a car that's all wrapped up with her logo, and
Right.
is loving having control over her schedule, feeling like she's making a difference in her community. She's using all those professional networking skills that she used in the corporate world to work with folks and find new customers. And it just was like a rock was lifted off her.
Right.
Is so interesting, but something she would have never really come to on her own. We worked together. I asked her lots of questions, and we went down roads that she's like, I would have been too scared to do that by myself, or I don't know that I would have put two and two together without a stranger kind of asking some pointed questions, and then also calling her back to, here's your goal. Is this career going to help you meet your goal, which was to have more schedule ownership and flexibility.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's
so
interesting.
remarkable things like that happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you consider yourself to be a consultant, or would you call yourself a coach?
I'm a coach, right? So
I
I
like
know
that word
stuff.
better than consultant, because to me, consultant is very eggheadish. I don't know.
It's a little egghead.
That's what I did for a living. I mean, I was a consultant, but
Yeah.
I just,
Yes.
I just I like the word coach better, because it's more of like we're in it together versus me just telling what to do and then leaving. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Well, and each of us, like, I couldn't, how do I give Sam advice? You're really the expert on Sam, right? And what your goals are and what those mean to you. So as a coach, I can ask you questions and help pull that out of you, but you're the expert, right? And you know what will work for you and your family in this season of life, how things might grow or change, and what's really engaging. So I think a coach can help tease those out, pull those things out of us. But we really can take ownership and be the masters of our own careers, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so you've got four teenage daughters. What have you learned from them about modeling courage and self belief for them?
Well, right. Teenagers teach you resilience, right? And it
Yeah.
strengthen my ego because I'm constantly told when I'm doing wrong. Um, so yeah, I think that was my children were a big part of my journey, right? I felt like I was missing a lot, and I wanted to be around when they came home from school and were ready to talk and debrief their day. And I just never had that chance. And so that was really important to me to have that be part of my career. But also really a strong desire to model to them that you can make your own way, right? You gather skills and expertise and make those great connections, but you have the capacity of putting that together and making that work for you. And it's funny that my kids, they get involved. I Sometimes they know when I'm using coaching language on them, and they're like, "Oh, is this part of you? Are you treating me like a client?"
Of
Right?
course.
But I think they get invested in some of the people that I'm working with. Their stories are inspiring, and I they help me. I give them jobs to do. So it's a much more integrated life that I have now than I used to when I went to an office every day, and they didn't really know what I was doing.
Yeah. What does success look like for you? How do you define success today as maybe you versus how maybe you did 10, 15, 20 years ago? Is it different?
Yeah, yeah. I think early Stacy, corporate Stacy did a lot of backbending and changing myself to fit my corporations, to fit my teams, to fit my job titles. And there was a lot of things about me that I held back, right? Because they didn't fit with that corporate image or this job mentality. And now I'm able to, those are my selling points, right? Is me, is who I authentically can be. So, I have income goals. I have lifestyle goals, where I want to control my schedule and what I want, is in terms of flexibility, legacy I want to leave, impact I want to make on my community. I have all those goals for myself, but I'm much more me than I used to be, which is kind of interesting how that comes out and shows up and is very relatable to many people. Is
Absolutely,
then
particularly as we get
just
older.
kind
I
of
mean,
the best.
we all kind of go through this journey together, and that makes sense. I mean, it just that
Yeah,
at some point that flips. Yep, absolutely.
yeah, for sure.
So, what's next on the horizon for you? Do you have any big projects or themes you're working on, or what's the next 4 to 5 years look like for Stacy?
Ooh, 4 to 5 years. Yes. Well, so I've been doing lots of experimenting. Podcasting is new for me, guesting on podcasts, finding new ways to relate to people and connect with potential clients, who would benefit from working with somebody like me, who are kind of itching for a change. So for me, I think the next few years will be really honing my coaching skills, but also how I find people, and get the message out about my service, to people that I might not normally bump into. And so
Hmm.
that little experimentation is been really fun for me.
I bet. Well, that's probably why we're talking today. So if someone
So
feels trapped,
you're helping.
if happy to help. If someone helps or if someone feels trapped in their job, Stacy, what's one small but powerful
Yeah.
first step they can take to reclaiming ownership of their future?
Yeah. I think, just what we were talking about, taking a few minutes for yourself to maybe jot down what are a couple goals for yourself, and start to be really honest about, am I living somebody else's dream or am I living my own dream? If I could do anything and I wasn't going to fail, I knew I wasn't going to fail, what would I do? And if that is radically different than your day job, um, take note, that you don't have to live in that, right?
Right.
There are lots of possibilities out there, lots of ways to make small changes and big changes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate our time together. Now, for my listeners, if they are listening to this and thinking that, well, they're kind of talking about me and they'd be interested in talking
Mhm.
to you, how would they get hold of you? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I would love to speak with them. The best way to do that is to go to my website, which is very easy. My life, my biz, biz, and that takes people right into a contact card, so I could reach out to them or they can get to my calendar. My coaching is complimentary, so it's really, sometimes it doesn't hurt to just have a conversation and see if what I offer is a fit.
Hmm.
um yeah, and I would encourage people, my life, my biz, and surf around a little bit. Yeah.
Great. Well, I really appreciate having you on. Is there anything that I haven't asked or I needed to ask or something else you'd like to cover?
No, I love this conversation. Yeah, and just really appreciate your time, and even the shot of the prairie behind you is
My
I've got
windmill.
Scott's Bluff up on my wall a little
Yeah, I love it.
further over. I should have pulled it in,
So,
but
so
yeah.
$1 million question is: did you ever get into Nebraska football? Were you forced into the
Well,
Nebraska football? Did your family big Husker fans?
So that's a trick question. That's like asking me if, as I live in Philadelphia, if I am an Eagles fan, right? I'm required by law to say yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. So
yeah,
yes, I had lots of Husker gear, whether I wanted it or not. We
yeah.
we were Husker fans for sure.
It is real. It is real. Well,
My
thank you.
niece is going to Kansas K State, and yeah, it's caused quite a problem.
That's all right. That's a good school too. That's a good school too.
That's all right. Still on the prairie, but all the colors are different. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know your time is valuable, and been a great conversation. Thank you.
Thanks so much.